Red light and speed cameras, the issue this week with the Ohio House of Representatives bringing forth House Bill 69, talking about banning those cameras that have been put up all across Northwest Ohio and Toledo proper in the last couple of years. 44 total cameras up at different locations around the area, some hot spots, if you will. We're glad to have Lieutenant Jeff Saluski from the Toledo Police Department here with us this afternoon. Lieutenant, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us. You guys get word that the state, after all of this work, after all of this effort to put these cameras, get them live online, see the results they're bringing in, and now the state comes up and says, a group of representatives come up and say, we want to get rid of these things. What's been the reaction from TPD?
Well, it's very concerning to us. We've had very good success with the cameras. We've seen hard data in which our accidents actually went down over a 10-year period that we looked at from the time the cameras were put in up until the end of 2011. We expanded the system in 2012 to attack some areas that had a high number of complaints and that we were seeing a large number of violations. So, and now that those cameras are in place, we're seeing those violations going down and overall a downward trend in our overall accidents throughout the city. So it's very concerning to us. We feel it's a very good tool for traffic enforcement.
The gentleman we heard from, the Toledoan we heard from at the very beginning of the program, is he the majority or the minority, you think?
I would have to say he's the minority, at least with the people that I talk to. For every person that tells me they don't like the cameras, and for whatever reason, and that's understandable, I probably have 2 or 3 others that say they think they're a great, they're a great idea. And the bottom line is, if you're obeying the traffic laws, and in this case, in the case of the cameras, you're not running a red light and you're not speeding, you're never going to see a citation from one of these cameras.
When we started putting this show together this week, and we asked the city of Toledo, we asked the mayor's office about the legislation going forth in the state, immediately they turned over a letter to us that they sent down to Columbus. And in that letter, the mayor points out, he says, the city of Toledo initiated the program in 2001, and since doing so, he says the city has realized an overall downward trend regarding the number of accidents, as you alluded to, saying reduction rates vary from approximately 2% to 17% for the last 10-year period. Do you attribute all of that to what the cameras are doing and just the fact that people know they're there and are driving safer?
I believe that. Just the presence of the camera, it's just like the presence of a police officer on the street. When we're driving as citizens and we see an officer, we tend to think about, what we're doing driving the car. And if that gets people's attention and if that's what causes them to drive safer, obey the traffic laws, then I'm all for it. The cameras are a force multiplier for us. They allow us to put a sentinel there, if you will, 24/7. Not only to enforce the law, but as a reminder to people to think about their driving and to obey those traffic laws.
The cameras have no leeway. And if you're walking on a downtown street and you don't use the crosswalk, chances are an officer may or may not write you a ticket for jaywalking, right?
Correct.
So I guess, is there leeway in these cameras at all?
Yes. Every one of these citations has to be approved by a police officer before they're issued. There's about 6 officers total in the Toledo Police Department, myself included as the project director. And what I tell my officers is when they are reviewing the violations, if they would not issue a ticket on the street if they witnessed that, then to reject the incident. Because it is set.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
Right turn on red is the biggest one. Okay. Right turn on red, in the state of Ohio, and all of our intersections that have cameras are marked this way, all have the white stop line. The law states that you shall stop at that line first. Then if clear, you can move up, probably have to stop again, make sure that there's no crossing traffic, no one in the crosswalk. Then you can make your turn on red. We get a lot of times where people will cross that line, and that sets the sensor off, which triggers an incident. But then the officer...
Because of a rolling stop?
Because, well, it's a rolling stop, or they just go beyond that line. The sensor's set. Yeah. The sensor is set exactly as the law reads. but they'll go past that, but then they will make a stop. As long as they don't encroach on a pedestrian in the crosswalk, as long as they don't encroach on any crossing traffic that has the right-of-way, they make a safe stop, and then they continue to go. We will more than likely reject that incident. Just as an officer on the street, if he observed that, would not issue a ticket.
Now, the House bill did pass this week. It is going to the Senate, and we have heard a couple of different variations of the Senate could vote on it in the next couple of weeks, or they may take a break, a summer recess, and not vote on it until the fall. In the letter the mayor's office sent down to Columbus, he said, quote, "The photo enforcement program has allowed Toledo to address traffic problems even with historically low police manpower." And he goes on to say using technology, traffic issues can be addressed citywide using fewer officers. The Toledo program has been successful in reducing the number of violations and accidents in most areas. This has been a manpower issue, having these, has it not?
Yes, it has.
And it has helped.
It has helped. We have been running at historically low numbers. You know, a number of years ago, the Toledo Police Traffic Section had upwards of 30 officers assigned. One of their main duties was to go out and do traffic enforcement. That's significantly reduced. We currently only have 7 patrol officers that are assigned to the traffic section. We are very limited on the type of enforcement that we can do. Having these cameras, again, allows us to cover these locations 24/7. They're locations that have been identified as problem areas, high number of accidents, high number of violations, complaints, and just from officer observations of seeing violations in those areas. So by having the cameras there, you know, we can enforce the law, but we can also remind people and hopefully reduce those just by the presence of the camera.
It's hard to believe this weekend we crossed the halfway point of the year, and so far this year you've got a figure you guys are looking at as far as the number of violations so far that you guys are targeting, yes?
Yes.
How many is that?
It's over 30,000 citations have been issued already this year.
And you said that number is, you can't tell whether it's higher or lower than years past because you guys just put online another 11 cameras.
Correct. In June of 2012, we installed 11 new photo enforcement cameras. They actually went live. June 29th, I believe the speed camera on the trail was about a month and a half behind that because of some building concerns and getting power and that to it. But those locations were identified as being a high number of violations in areas where we had a large number of accidents, a lot of complaints. And when we tested those locations, they were off the charts, to put it quite mildly, of the number of violations that were recorded. So initially we had quite a spike in the number of citations. Those have been falling on a regular basis. And we average now right around 5,000 to not quite 6,000 tickets a month.
You talk about the camera on the trail, and I've got some numbers here between January and March of this year. We're looking at 1,600 plus violations there. It does not do a red light violation there, obviously, because there's no intersection. You talked about, before we came out here today, you talked about hot zones around the area that you were just alluding to the fact that there was a lot of watching, there was a lot of homework that went into figuring out where these were going to go. One of those buzz areas, if you will, Alexis and Whitmer, right outside of Whitmer High School. We want to show folks that location. And over that first 3-month period this year, we're looking at 3,300 violations just for speed. There have also been red light violations right there. We went to Washington local schools to talk to the superintendent, Patrick Hickey, and he gave us this statement. I want to show people at home, if we can get that up, and give them exactly what he said to us. He said, "We have tried unsuccessfully for years to get people to reduce their speed on Alexis with little success." He is a proponent of these, Lieutenant.